Mediterranean island of Malta is recognised as an established financial hub and as the home of one of Europe's most attractive banking sectors. Around 30 banks service the retail and business needs of just over 500,000 people. And BNF, launched in 2008, is among the leading players. Driven by the highest principles of ethical and social responsibility, BNF's goal is to be the bank of choice for individuals and businesses. Well, it's a strategy that appears to be working, as for 3 consecutive years, 2020 to 2022, BNF was awarded Bank of the Year Malta by The Banker. So how does it maintain those ideals without compromising its integrity? Well, I'm delighted to say that I'm joined in the studio by David Power, Chief Executive Officer of BNF, and George Debono, the Chief Commercial Officer. So look, guys, it's very, very good to see both of you. That question which I posed in that introduction, David, tackling it means understanding your own personal background. Now, you've got more than 30 years' experience in banking. Take me through that career trajectory that's led you to where you are now.
Okay, thanks. Nice to be here. Thanks very much for the invitation. I've been very fortunate that I've been able to work in multiple jurisdictions around the world, starting off in South Africa and in the UK, and then off to the Middle East, where I worked in Kuwait and Oman, Dubai, and then off to Southeast Asia in Malaysia, and now here in Malta. So it's been a great opportunity to not only learn different cultures, but also to understand how banking works on a global basis. And I know that a lot of that experience that I've picked up over the years has been allowed me to get stuck into what we need to do in Malta, which is, again, a very different jurisdiction. So I'm delighted to be in Malta. I think there's wonderful opportunities, and we have a big strategy to drive in our bank. So it's halfway through, but we're not there yet. Okay,
but good results so far. And of course, when you're talking about strategies, etc., trust is essential, especially given the situations, the scandals, for want of a better term, that the banking sector globally has been involved in. But given the importance of trust, what have been your initial goals and strategies in terms of building on BNF's reputation and at the same time making stakeholders feel secure? In other words, that they can work with you. Trust.
Good question. I think we've got 4 major stakeholders when it comes to trust. One of them being the regulators, one of them being our shareholders, the other one being our customers, and the final one being our staff. So you're trying to merge those 4 entities into providing trust is key in order to make the bank successful. Certainly on the regulatory side is to make sure that the regulators understand, you keep them updated, you keep them informed of how you're doing your business, so that they don't have any concerns or fears about the fact that the bank might be doing something that's underhand, as we've seen in other options around the world in terms of banks. The second one around the shareholder, obviously the shareholder is a critical element of that, and part of that is because they invested in the bank and they're making our bank possible. So building trust with them is also key, so keeping them informed, keeping them up to date in terms of what's happening in the bank, and from a strategy perspective, making sure that they have the information they need to have. The third one being our customers. That is really important, again, to make sure that they understand. We treat them with transparency. If there's issues relating to their accounts, we deal with them. We are very focused on customer satisfaction, customer service. So we make sure in the bank that everything that we do, the question we ask is, how does this impact the customer? So that's important.
So the customer's at the centre of the thinking, really.
Absolutely. I mean, it's without them we don't have a bank, and without them we don't have the money to continue to invest. So for me, the customer sits right in the centre, and we do make sure, I mean, we do customer interviews, we do customer satisfaction surveys, we make sure that they are fully aligned in terms of where we want to take the bank. And the last one is obviously staff. You know, staff rely very much on communication. If you don't communicate with your people, then they don't trust what's going on in the organisation. So we've implemented a number of new strategies at BNF in terms of communication. So we have town halls now. We have an opportunity for staff to communicate directly with me.
The town halls being the open discussions.
Yeah. So we get on stage as an executive committee, And then what we do is we go through some of the strategic issues, and then we say the floor is open. So there's no posed questions. The questions come from as they wish, and then we answer them. You know, so it's very important to show the levels of transparency. And then, look, as I said, we've also opened up an email account which staff can communicate directly with me if they've got any other issues they wish to direct. So I think in all four, you bring them all together, and then you have an organisation that's going in the right direction.
OK, so a pipeline to the boss. And George, I mean, come into the conversation, because some people would say, well, actually, that's quite unusual, what's been outlined just now, a few moments ago. Is that what sets the bank apart from its competitors? And on top of that, can you explain to me how BNF actually stays ahead of evolving customer needs? Because one of the things which came out of COVID-19, for example, was that customers demanded more in terms of swiftness of service and your ability to meet it. So how are you actually dealing with those evolving needs and at the same time delivering service and excellence? Because customers are very fussy. If they don't like you, they'll go somewhere else.
Yes, I agree with all that you've said. And let me put it this way. I mean, first and foremost, even after COVID, trust leads to seeing is believing. And we're seeing a lot of more interactions coming through to us in terms that the customers want to discuss with a person. Customers want, yes, the technological basics that they would normally expect, but they also want to associate the bank with an individual. And that leads us to we're as good as our weakest link, in the sense that we rely on that individual to feel the trust that he has from the bank, from the shareholder, as an employee, to pass it on to our customers. What always distinguishes us, we are still a bank that we feel that we are approachable. Now, it's very easy to say that, okay? It's very easy to say, yes, we keep the customers at the center of everything that we do, but it's the how that we do it. And we do that as much as possible, first and foremost, by the presence in the community, by the presence in our branches. We are the 6th largest bank, but we have the 2nd largest retail network in Malta in terms of number of branches. We have a very good corporate RM population, which is always out there. And we are judging these RMs by how much they are actually out there, by how much, not just how many business they bring to the bank. Yes, that's important, and we will keep that as important, but also by how close they stay with the customer. And also we are, let's say, building a community of BNF employees and customers who can work together. And we've just, for example, we've just opened a new branch in the campus hub. So it's close to the university. It's the only bank branch that there is close to the university. We want to be there with the students. And yes, students definitely love technology, use technology, but they still want, to meet some, let's say, relatively younger people over there.
But that's quite important, isn't it? The human touch, because whenever we
Exactly.
have conversations about the financial services sector, be it banking or insurance, it's always this fear that somewhere along the line the human will get lost in the chain.
Exactly. And that's why it's presence that starts to build the trust. But that's the foundation. Then you have to ensure that there is consistency in the message, that there is consistency in the approach, okay? And for example, many people talk about complaint. We don't mention complaints in the bank. We say customer feedback, because that's what it is.
The language.
Even the language portrays the image that we want to achieve with our customers. But then it's, again, coming back to that we action on it. I'm going to mention just another example, which is the digital system transformation. We're changing our mobile app. We're creating a focus group with a select number of employees and a focus group with a select number of customers to see how best to position the new mobile banking app. And I think these are the little things that actually make the difference, rather than just say it.
Yeah.
You need to mean it.
Sorry, you wanted to add to that, did you?
No, I agree with George completely. I think at the end of the day, we are priding ourselves in the sense of saying that that service and customers, we walk the talk. So in other words, if you're a customer of the bank and you want to engage with us, we don't see it as a complaint, as George says. It's more around how can we help you to improve our systems and our ability of serving you.
Yeah, and you know, technology is also important within the strategy. Let me put this to you, George, because look, technology is always changing. But how do you keep up, not just with the technology, but the potential trends that it generates from that usage?
Again, so let's be clear. We have specific people who are always focusing on that, and on that subject, I always say that it's a much wider subject. It's not just about trends, but it's also about security, particularly on cyber security at this point in time. So you need the experts to keep you there. That's the first layer. The second layer is also our staff, and what I mean by our staff is that when they are out there, they feel what the competition is doing. They come back and tell us, look, because that bank, because international banks, because fintechs, which are a big reality all around the banks. We cannot, as banks, we cannot ignore fintechs anymore. They are part and parcel of the banking ecosystem. And our customers, like the example I mentioned earlier, and sometimes they do also come up with genuine suggestions on, look, this can work better. We can feel that there's genuine feedback from our customers. So I think the foundation is the expertise, but on top of that is our staff and our customers who can feed us in and keep us up to date.
Let me just probe that a little bit deeper, though, because, yes, there is a lot of technology around. So how do you evaluate which technologies have the potential to drive long-term impact for the organisation and, again, generate that customer satisfaction?
Yeah, I think in terms of x-axis and y-axis, the y is the customer, so we have to delve deeper into what the customer wants, particularly on those systems which are customer facing. But the x-axis are the cost that it can provide to the bank, cost savings that it can provide towards the bank. So any investment, and we have to acknowledge this, any investments needs to have its own returns. So the returns have to have a customer impact and a bank impact, and that's how we usually assess it. On top of that, I would still add the cybersecurity element, the peace of mind, because if you don't keep that peace of mind, we go back to the trust in the first question.
Absolutely.
So we have to keep that always into consideration in our judgments.
I want to throw this open to both of you, but David, if I can start with you, because look, I want to stick with the technology issue, but are there any specific technologies that you feel comfortable about discussing, or perhaps tools that BNF is adopting and where you can actually say, yeah, we trialled this and it's great. We feel that that's going to be part of the bank's long-term DNA.
Sure. Listen, I think you're absolutely right to ask that question. We are focusing on your bank for tomorrow. So in other words, all the technology that we are now implementing within our core transformation program is technology that's going to future-proof the bank. So we are right in the guts of doing a massive core transformation process. We are the first bank globally to go live on a SaaS cloud system through Temenos.
So the first in the world doing this?
On this particular version, yeah. So most of the versions that are done globally are on premise rather than on cloud. We were the first bank to go live on the latest version on cloud. So you know, it's pushing the boundary of technology right to the end. We're moving to an open architecture banking system, which means we are completely open from an API perspective. We're employing AI into the system as well. So there's going to be a significant shift from what banks do today to what we're going to be doing next. So it's coming up very, very shortly. George spoke about the app. Our app is very forward thinking. We've just launched a new website earlier, end of last year, which is very much driven on a new technology so that we can engage with our customers. We've just recently launched digital onboarding, so our customers can now apply for opening an account online without having to come into a branch, and that's taken off extremely well in terms of the customer base in Malta. So I think what's important for us is what we're doing is we searched really long and hard to find the right technology. We think we found the right technology, and with our implementation partners, we are absolutely moving at a million miles an hour. The one thing we also have to understand is that from BNF's side is when we go live on the new system completely, because we're going through two phases. We've done one phase, and the next phase is going to be happening towards the end of this year. The old core system that we had will no longer exist. So we're completely moving our banking to future world products.
But the key thing as well is that from the customer's point of view, they're not going to notice a major difference as in, oh my gosh, I have to go into the branch because this isn't working. It's so smooth. The real sweat is happening behind the scenes, the bit which is closed off to public view.
I mean, our app, just as an example, on our app, we're hoping that as a customer, you can resolve your issues online through the application. So in other words, if you want to increase your limit on your credit card, or you want to stop a payment of a check, or you want to do whatever you want to do, you should be able to do that on the app without having to come into the branch to do that.
Yeah, and of course the relationship between the customer and the bank helps as well to expedite these requests very quickly.
Yes. Look, I mean, I think you can't be one or the other. I think we've decided as a strategic issue that you have to have a hybrid approach. So given the demographics of Malta and given the population and where it sits, you absolutely need a face-to-face, because there are older demographics that require to go into the branch and have a chat to whoever they need to have a chat to. Whereas the younger demographic, and George mentioned Campus Hub, they want tech, and they want to be able to engage with tech at another level. So our Campus Hub branch, for instance, is completely changed the view of how we do banking. So it's how you approach the segments that you're operating in to provide the right sort of thing. You can't do one or the other.
Yeah, and that's the key thing, isn't it, George? Because it is KYC. So, given what David has just said, I mean, what are the steps that you're taking at that very organic level to ensure that the technology investments themselves, in other words, the cash, actually aligns not just with the business, but also the strategy goal? Because you are dealing with a constantly evolving demographic, and because Malta has been so successful marketing itself, you may find that so many years down the line, you'll have a new demographic coming in with completely different needs.
True. And I think the best way to answer that is through an example. And David mentioned digital onboarding. So digital onboarding, we implemented this before the second phase that David mentioned on the old system. We're learning on that in the sense that we are already getting roughly the figures at this moment, they are 70%.
So you said the old system, we're learning from that. What, are we talking legacy technology?
Yeah, we're talking the use front end of new technology, but we're talking core banking system, the legacy. So we had to, make these two completely different
generations. I find it
generations.
extraordinary because most banks talk about getting rid of legacy systems because they're a bit of an impediment. I'm fascinated how you're using them.
Yeah, our challenge was we could not wait until we do everything and then start thinking about the new way. So we had to say, look, let's do the new way, let's learn from it, and then we'll find it easier on the new system because it will be much easier. But what I was trying to get to in terms of how we explain this, 70% of our customers who try the digital onboarding go through it easily and they get the account number, the credit card next day, etc., etc. That's 70%. The other 30%, we make sure we contact them all. And the particularity of Malta is that because we're so small, you might be unlucky with the traffic, but you are 30 minutes away, 20 minutes away from a branch. So what we're trying to do is those 30% who do not make it for any reason, for any check that didn't work out or any technology failure, because these things happen, let's be honest, particularly when you're trying to use two generations of systems. But for these 30%, we ask them to contact the bank, we make an appointment, and we go through it still. And this is where customers, I think, we earn their trust. that either we were successful in the beginning or we made amends. And that's giving us, again, some insight on why the technology has failed or why the customer has failed our checks, and allow us to further improve on that in the future.
I mean, look, Malta is a small island, but it sounds to me as well that you have the advantage from being small. Small is beautiful, that you can have that relationship with the clients, and yes, if there are mistakes, you can get across them very, very quickly and extract the information, the learning.
Yeah, exactly. The challenge, look, yes, small is beautiful, it has its own challenges, but it has a lot of opportunities. So if you don't use that ability to say, look, but if you want to, we can have that conversation. And mind you, technology is replacing a lot of human interaction, but it will never, or at least that's what I believe, it will never completely change or eliminate the use of human interaction. And in a small island like ours, where probably many people know each other as well, customer recommendation is key. People do speak to each other. So for us, it's very important that we get the conversation, because we're sure that will ripple on to other customers and other potential business that can come to us.
And it becomes generational as well.
It does come generation. In that aspect, we have a challenge of our own. We're a 15-year-old bank, all right, competing with the 60, 70, 80-year-olds or the international banks. So that is a challenge in itself. It's also an opportunity for us, because we are the new kids on the block, you know. So we try to focus on or leverage on our strengths rather than play
I think
on
you're
our
called
weakness.
upstarts.
Yeah.
Challenges. They call us.
Challenging upstarts.
Yeah.
It's a nice
Exactly,
label to have.
exactly.
But David, let me just close this out with you. So much is happening in your space. So what do you regard as the bank's biggest priorities and indeed opportunities for growth? And how are you planning to capitalise on them? You're doing it already, but what's the next stage of the master plan?
Well, the master plan, we presented a 3-year strategy to the board of directors at the beginning of this year called Vision 26, and part of that strategy is clearly answering the question that you've just asked me here. But the most important thing is to land our new digital transformation, which will be towards the end of this year. That's key, because once we have that in place, the cloud technology then allows us to expand in areas where we can't currently. So I think that's the first point. And second thing is we're the only bank in Malta that has a fully licensed branch in London. So yeah, we got the approvals from the PRA and the FCA towards the end of last year. So we're the only bank in Malta that can legally operate a branch in London for our customers. Now, both for our customers in Malta as well as for customers we have now started to grow in London. So there's a growth opportunity there for us as well. And it's a massive opportunity for us to be able to say to our customers who are expanding into London, come talk to us and we can help you with that growth. So that's another one. I think the growth on the local market in terms of our customers, we obviously want to grow the customer base in Malta. Key area for us on the growth side is also on the corporate and the commercial side, which George manages for us. And treasury is a new area that we're focusing on a lot in terms of how we manage our treasury. And then finally, Europe's our oyster. We have potential to do whatever we want to from a European side. But
that's where the geography,
absolutely,
geography is a huge asset.
Yeah, and we can passport to any country that we wish. So I think for me, the foundation is getting the system in place, and once that system in place, Pandora's box can open, and literally we can do what we need to do.
And good things will come out of the box.
Absolutely. This is a good Pandora.
A good Pandora, not a bad one. Gentlemen, we're going to have to leave it there, but thank you so much for joining me in the studio, and good luck with your strategy going forward. It sounds very exciting, and I'm going to hold you to this, okay? You've given us so much information already, and we want to hook up with you again to see whether you've actually stuck to the roadmap.
Thank you.
With pleasure.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Thank you. Bye-bye.